dark. You didn't want to leave your ears on? So just let me know. Okay. So can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. I'm not used to being mic'd up, so this is a good thing. And I think this is good that this is something I don't bring home either to my husband. He probably wouldn't appreciate it very much if I were mic'd up. Anyway, so my name is Sue Buckendorf. I'm a safety consultant with SAIF Corporation, and I work on our state agency and university team. So I work with about a third of the state agencies for our state, and also 2 of the universities. We kind of share the universities on my team. Anyway, so I'm aligned with the lottery, and I'm so happy to be here. I really like lottery. I work with Laura as my contact person here, and I'm really tickled with the safety programs that you have in place and the culture that you have here. What I've noticed is Laura is right on top of things, and even on the proactive side, thinking about how to keep you folks safe and healthy. Some of your faces are familiar. I was out here at the wellness fair that you had going on out here, so I saw some of you folks then. I didn't see Shrek then, but I'm seeing him now. And that
was pre-Farquaad days.
Oh, there you go. There you have it. Anyway, so Laura contacted me and she said, you know, we've got some new things going on here at work, and some of our folks are maybe feeling a little stressed. Is there something we can do to talk about how do we alleviate that? What can we do? And it's all about building resilience. On the back table, I do have a couple of handouts. Feel free to take those about stress and what it can do to your body and different things you can do to alleviate stress. But I also put together a presentation that I hope you'll find informational and helpful about bouncing back from stress, because we all recognize that some folks just seem to bounce back and are a little more resilient to it, and other folks, it can just put them into a tailspin. So in this, we'll talk about stress, what causes it, what it can do to you, and maybe some things that you can try, some suggestions about how you can build your own resiliency to stress. So how many of us feel this way? There are only times I feel stressed during the day. It's day and night. It's kind of like it comes all the time, doesn't it? We don't get a break from it. So really what I wanted to talk about, what is workplace stress? What are some of the things that cause stress in our workplace? And I don't know if some of you folks recognize some of the things here. Some of the things that can cause stress at work would be like maybe the characteristics of the job. Maybe what you have to do on your job isn't something that you really enjoy doing. It doesn't totally match up to what you do. For some folks, I'm just not a good fit in this organization, and I got hired here and it's not working out for me now. What do I do? How do I work around that type of a thing? It could be our work environment. Some of those work in positions where we have seasonal ups and downs, and when that season is up, it kind of puts us under a little more pressure or stress. Some of us don't deal well with change. How many of us like change? Okay, got a few hands. I've been at SAIF for 32 years, been through a lot of changes in those 32 years, and I just figured my whole outlook on it is I just need to be Gumby who's been coated with Teflon, because I'm not going to stick in any one place and I've got to be flexible. So I try to think of myself that way, but some folks just don't like change. I have some coworkers that are working with a computer system that we initiated a couple years ago, and it's different than what they were used to. And the way that they've dealt with it is if I ignore it, maybe it'll go away. But it's 2 years later and it hasn't gone away. It's part of their reality. Sometimes it's our relationship with people that we have at work. We're here at work, we're all co-workers. Sometimes we have some unique things about us that may bump heads with other people. Other people have no problems with it. So sometimes there can be relationship issues and that type of thing. But when we talk about workplace stress, we need to recognize that it is different for different people. We all recognize different things. Okay? So we all experience stress. And sometimes we may feel like my granddaughter here in this photo. I'm not sure what her mom told her to get this reaction, but I think this is sometimes the way we feel. You know, we've got finance issues, we could have personal relationships going on that are maybe giving us a little bit of a jiggle. It could be maybe expectations that others have that they're placing on us. It could be that we just have too much to do and there aren't enough hours in the day to get that done. But what we need to recognize is there are two different types of stress, basically. There's acute stress and there's chronic stress. Acute stress is meant to be a short-lived type of a stress. It's the stress that helps us survive. It's that fight or flight type of stress. And it does also, when we have just a little bit of that kind of stress, it also helps our performance, either our performance in surviving or our performance at work, that type of a thing. Chronic stress is when stress is just going on for too long and we're not getting a break from it, we're not getting a chance to bounce back from that. And like I said, stress is different for everybody, and it's our ability to bounce back from that stress which is important. Okay, so when we are experiencing that acute response to the acute stress, and this is the response that our body does. So you can see the different things that take place with our body, and those are all things that help us survive. You know, the glucose is getting released, so we've got that energy so we can run from danger or whatever it is. Our senses get sharp. Our breathing quickens because we're trying to get more oxygen into our system. And it's important to recognize, I mean, like I said, it's supposed to be short-lived. The problem comes is when we don't get that recovery from those responses. Okay? Okay, and so when we do have stress, this is sometimes how we react to it. Do any of you recognize some of those things that happen? Maybe we're going to eat a lot, or maybe I'm just too stressed that I just can't eat. Maybe we snap at folks. Maybe we're crying easily. I mean, these are all little things that we do. Okay, but we all have a limit to stress. So we also find that what is hard to do is to separate our workplace stress from our personal stress. So maybe we could start out the morning and we've just had an argument with our teenager about what they were going to wear to school that day. So you've got that hammering at you. And then you come to work and maybe you've got something going on with your supervisor and that's hammering at you too. And it can be very difficult to separate those two instances of stress. So if we're constantly bombarded and we don't have any kind of a physical outlet to this, then we can start to have physical issues that go along with this stress. And what's happening is our parasympathetic system doesn't allow to kick in to help bring us down from that. So the parasympathetic system is one that helps to bring our heart rate back down. It brings our blood pressure back down. It helps activate our digestive juices again, because when you're under stress, everything kind of shuts down because you're supposed to be thinking about running or fighting versus digesting that meal you just ate. It also helps relax your muscles. So things you can do to activate that parasympathetic system, you can do things like meditate, you can do some aerobic exercise, go for a walk. Massages are good. That human touch is good for bringing that down. Deep breathing, or even just running through some positive affirmations in your brain about this is good, I'm good, things will be okay. But when we do have that chronic stress, then we start running into these type of issues. So maladaptive behavior is being unable to adjust or to adapt to the situation that you're in. And these are the types of things that will begin occurring in your body. This can be characterized by having headaches. You could get some skin disorders. Think of somebody who's stressed out and they get hives, because that's how they're reacting to this type of thing. Inflammation builds up in our body, and it can lead to insulin resistance and issues with diabetes. You can think about caretakers, folks who take care of others that have needs or a loved one, and they're not getting any kind of a break or any respite from this constant stress that they're under and taking care of the person, and pretty soon that you find that that caretaker is getting sick, or maybe even worse than that. So what happens when we get into a stressful situation is it activates this little thing in our brain called the amygdala, which is a really fun word to say. But that amygdala is what's releasing cortisol. And cortisol is what helps regulate our blood sugars and controls our blood pressure. And it is something that gets put out there as part of our stress response, which is good. It gets us kind of ready for action and ready to go. But if we don't get any break from that cortisol being released, what it does is starts to build up in our body. It has a half-life of 8 hours. So that means after 8 hours, you still have half the amount of cortisol in your body before it's finally metabolizing and going away. And if we're not getting any break from the stress that we're experiencing, that cortisol just keeps building up in our body. If we don't get enough of that recovery time like I was talking about, and it builds up in our body, it builds up in our body in a way where it's building up the insulin and it's building up that abdominal fat that some of us experience as weight gain, which is just not a good thing. So we do have a built-in support system in our body, which is called oxytocin, and that gets released from our pituitary gland in our body, and this is part of what helps us build resistance. What oxytocin does is it acts as an anti-inflammatory, so the inflammation your body is experiencing from having chronic stress and too much of the cortisol released, the oxytocin helps fight that inflammation. The other thing that oxytocin does is it helps you become more social. So it encourages you to seek out other people, to talk with them and kind of work on things that way. Other things that can build oxytocin are hugs. So physical touch is very important. So hugs, massages, dancing. I'm sure Shrek can do a few moves for us, but dancing would help us out.
Don't you go there, girl.
Meditation is something else that encourages the amygdala to shrink and stop producing that cortisol. Magnesium, if you're interested in magnesium supplements, you can try taking magnesium. Another thing is dark chocolate. Dark chocolate helps with that. I'm not a fan of dark chocolate, and I've always thought that if I ate twice as much milk chocolate, it would equal dark chocolate, but I don't think that always helps. Okay, so when we think about folks, folks that seem to be a little more resilient, who kind of get things to like water off a duck's back type of a thing. These are the types of things that we notice about folks who are more resilient to stress, because some folks just don't seem to be bothered. The other thing that we find about folks who are a little more resilient is that they tend to see challenges as an event and not necessarily a problem or a barrier. So they're doing that positive mind speak type of a thing. Resilience is something which is like our muscles. If we're not exercising it, it's going to atrophy. So resilience is something that we do need to practice and work on. Resilience is something that is being taught in the Army. And I don't know if you're aware of that. But what they have found out is when they've got their soldiers trained on resilience, these folks are showing better coping skills. They're better with adaptability. And they've also noticed that they've had a significant reduction in substance abuse with those folks. So it's something that's been a very positive thing. So in building resilience, it's important to take care of yourself, following a healthy diet. I know it's Halloween, and that you can take a pass on that today. Exercising, just being kind to yourself and giving yourself some downtime, and even getting some sleep. Some things you should watch out for would be caffeine, because caffeine is something which is a stimulant, and it can have a tendency to make anxiety feelings worse. Types of foods that help with this would be berries, guacamole or avocados, nuts, oranges, spinach, salmon. Those types of foods are very good as far as looking for in a diet. Getting enough sleep. Okay, our world is a sleepy society. No, I don't know of anybody who's getting enough sleep. You know, the online world is out there 24/7, and it's always available, and it's something that always kind of grabs us and pulls us in. If you know that you're going to be having something where a little later in the week, maybe you're not going to have the ability to get enough sleep that night, if you can build up earlier in the week, you can kind of help work against that deficiency you might be experiencing. Another thing to be aware of is that sleepiness, if you have too many hours of wakefulness or not enough sleep, it can be the same as being impaired. And what they have found is that 20 hours of wakefulness is equal to about a 0.08 impairment with blood alcohol. So it's not something, and like with alcohol, we don't always recognize that we are impaired. You know, some people just can function with a 0.08. Same thing with being sleepy. If we are too sleepy, we don't recognize that we are impaired, and we just continue going along like we do. Okay, so it's important to get good sleep. And what we recommend is you get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. Science has shown that not enough sleep is not good for our health, and too much sleep is not good for our health. So some tips to help you get some better sleep. Make the bedroom cool, quiet, and relaxing. In our bedroom at home, we don't have a TV. TV stays in another room because I'm not going to have that interrupting anything that I want to be doing in there, which is sleeping. It's important to keep a consistent sleep schedule too. My schedule for during the work week is I'm up at 4:30, I'm in bed at 8:30. I'm not a fun person necessarily in the evenings. Some later family things can have a tendency to have me looking at my watch going, it's past my bedtime, I got to get out of here, type of a thing. But if you can try to maintain kind of that schedule over the weekend as well, it is better for you, and it will help you get a better sleep pattern going. Like I said, you won't be the fun person on the weekend because you'll be saying, hey, I got to get out of here, I have to go to bed. People make fun of you, but that's okay. It's also important that we're discovering is to limit your exposure to brightness, blue light type of things. So our telephones, our televisions, our iPads emit a blue light. And what we're finding is that messes with the melatonin in our system, which helps us slow down and go to sleep. And I don't know if you're aware that they do make Blu-ray glasses that you can wear that will help block that blue light. So if you do need to be checking Facebook clear up until the time you go to bed, or like my husband, he's got to watch The Voice to the very end, see who gets taken out of the knockout round. If you can wear these special glasses, the frames can be a little funky looking, but that's okay. You're in your home. Put those on, and that'll help cut down your exposure to that blue light. It's also important to relax. You need to take the time for relaxation. That will help you build up your resilience. Yoga is something which is very relaxing, and yoga and meditation do help make that amygdala smaller, which is a good thing. Meditation, I found this website which had some really useful information in there about meditation. I'll let you go ahead and do that. So this is a page called Quiet Kit, and it was something that I explored a little bit. Meditation is something that I've always kind of thought about but hadn't done. But what I like in here is they have some guided meditations that you can try that are 2 minutes long, 4 minutes long, and they go on down to 10 minutes. And it's when you go in there and you check that out, it's something where you have a very gentle voice talking to you about breathing in and breathing out, and talking about letting go of your body as you're thinking about this, and just kind of letting your mind go. And it's a really fun thing to try. It's relaxing. And I would just recommend trying something like that. The other thing that's on here, another thing that really helps with building your resiliency is some deep breathing. And so there's some different methods of deep breathing you can try. If you go to, okay, so if, oops, no, let's keep going back to the quiet. So the box breathing. So this box breathing is something that can help calm you down and help get you relaxed. It gets your muscles to relax as well. They also call it the Navy SEAL breathing technique or tactical breathing. But this is a great tool if you need something to help you kind of guide you with breathing, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, wait 4 seconds, and then repeat it. It's something that I have found really helps lower anxiety and kind of gets things to calm down. Helps the muscles relax. My husband, unfortunately, will get Charlie horses. And they aren't your usual Charlie horses that are like in your calf. They bite him right in the back of his thigh. And while it can be humorous to watch him struggle through one of those, that's not very kind if I'm laughing at him. But one of the things that I've found is I've worked with him and say, okay, try to relax, because if you can relax that muscle, that's really going to help that Charlie horse go away. And we've practiced doing the deep breathing, and he's found that that does have an impact and can get that muscle to relax and calm down. So Quiet Kit is something that I would recommend giving it a try. They also have they have an area also, we won't go into it, where it talks about meditation in schools. And they have found that this type of guided meditation and breathing has been very effective for children as well as getting things to calm down and get anxiety to release. So we go back to the presentation. Okay, walking. Walking is another great way that I talked about will help get rid of that cortisol that's building up in your body, and it helps build that oxytocin and serotonin in your body. How many of you enjoy going on walks? I'm not judging, okay? Do some of you have, like Shrek even likes to go for walks through the swamp, okay? So how many of you have, any of you have like a set route that you enjoy going on? Okay. Are any of you familiar with the Map My Walk? Good, good. For those of you that aren't, we'll go ahead and we'll pull it up. So when you go into Map My Walk, let's go down to Oregon. It's got all the different states, and Oregon will be in here as well. So we are in Salem. So if we clicked on Salem, they will have different walking trails that folks have already kind of mapped out. So you can have a choice of different distances that you would prefer to walk. It has the route mapped out for you. You can find one which is close to you. So I'm one that when I'm going for a walk, I'm always challenged with figuring out, okay, where am I going to go? You know, I don't want to just do the walk around the block or this type of a thing. I'd like to see different scenery. But this is a great tool to give a try. If you wanted to try a different walk, find something that's in your area. I believe you could also map a walk and download it in here so that you could share it with others. So going on a walk is a great tool. Music has also been found to be very relaxing. When my mom, we all have different types of music that we like. My husband likes country. I'm into kind of the hard rock alternative kind of stuff. When my mom was in Albany, and I live here in Salem, and she was in a nursing facility and she was passing, every day when I would make that trip down to Albany to see her, I had Metallica on and I had it loud. And it just kind of helped get everything drained out of me bad that I was feeling. So music, you can find, can be very helpful. Some people prefer symphony music. We all have different things that we like, but music, you know, as they said, it calms the savage beast. So try listening to music. Reading is another great way to help kind of get you de-stressed and relaxed. Reading can help transport you to another place in time with fiction. It can take you out of the moment and put you someplace else. And so trying some reading is good. We also have relaxing videos, just taking a 1-minute break to just watch a video and just kind of let your world disappear for a moment. SAIF, if you go to SAIF.com, we have about 5 different relaxing videos that are available for folks to watch anytime they would like. This is just a brief sample of one that we have. SAIF. Yeah, SAIF, S-A-I-F. We have a very talented videographer there. So they're about a minute long, and they can just, they're a couple of different scenes, so you can choose the kind of scene that you'd like to see. You could practice your deep breathing along with watching this. So it's just kind of something else you can try that's very calming and restful. Oops. Another thing that we've discovered is that gratitude helps raise serotonin levels, helps build that resilience in your body, and helps you to relax as well. We know that gratitude strengthens our immune system. And performing acts of kindness will also boost serotonin. When you think about it, if you're thinking about being grateful for people or things that have happened during the day or in your life, it's very hard to keep those negative thoughts inside your body that can build up. One of the things that I suggest trying is a gratitude journal. If you take some time every day to just kind of write down, you could jot down 3 quick items of what you're grateful for that day. Maybe you could be grateful that I had clean clothes to wear. I didn't have to go digging through the pile. It could be that I'm grateful that my coworker took over this little bit of work for me, so it freed me up to do something else. I could be grateful that, you know, my kids came home safe from school. They're just, it can be anything. But if you stop and focus on the positive and jot it down, you find that that can make a difference in your life. You'll find that people who are expressing gratitude are people who are a little more content. They have fewer medical issues, and they have more energy than others. I've also put some thank you notes out on the table in front of you today. I'm not asking for a thank you note for me, but it's giving thanks is another way to help boost those serotonin levels, and it's another act of kindness type of a thing. So I've got thank you notes out there. Feel free to take what you would like. Just expressing gratitude and thanks to somebody is a great way to raise your serotonin level and a great way to make their day as well. So those are available for you if you can think of somebody you'd like to thank. If you want to thank your child, that, hey, thank you so much for being good today, or I'm really proud of you for what you've done. If you want to thank your spouse and say, hey, honey, thank you so much for whatever, whether it was they made the bed, or they had dinner ready for you, or thank you for taking care of that mess I didn't want to take care of. Simple things like that. They're simple, but they will increase that serotonin level. Conversely, if you have somebody thanking you for something, accept it, receive it. Because if you say, oh, it was nothing, that kind of brushes off and doesn't give value to the thanks that they just gave you, and you're doing yourself a disservice. So if somebody is thanking you for something, accept it. Accept it and say, gosh, you're welcome. I enjoyed doing that. All of these types of things will help increase the serotonin in your body, which has a very positive impact on our moods, our ability to sleep, and our food control type of thing. Okay, Socializing is another great way to raise those serotonin levels. Making personal connections with folks, whether it's with friends, family members, if you have a civic group that you're involved in, or you're thinking about it, getting involved with a civic group, doing some volunteer work. That is a great way to increase your serotonin. How about play? And I don't mean you have to go out and play kickball or volleyball or something super physical, but just getting together and maybe playing cards with somebody or playing some games. We enjoy taking about 1 weekend a month to go camping, and we go out with some other couples, and it's always the highlight of our trip to go out and we have a potluck together, and then we're playing games. And we've got card games that we play. We have a great time, and it's just really a relaxing time and time for yourself. I think it's also important to laugh. I'm always wanting to make people laugh, to enjoy what's going on, find humor in the situation, and we know that humor and laughter is very important for our bodies. Humor is actually a pain reliever. So when you have folks who are dealing with an injury or some type of an illness that does deal with pain, if you can talk about humorous things, upbeat things, it helps them as far as a pain reliever. It's also something that boosts that serotonin level in us, and that we've talked about over and over is very helpful. Even thinking about something funny they have found, has even increases the serotonin level. And I've been known just to think about funny things as well. Maybe a funny practical joke I was going to pull on somebody that just kind of gives me a chuckle. And it just feels good. I found this video. I don't know how many of you have seen this video before, but I think this is an important video with a good message in it about raising our oxytocin and serotonin levels. It involves animals, and we know that spending time with animals, there are animals that they bring to visit in hospitals and care facilities, and it's a great way to help kind of get that person relaxed and get those serotonin levels. So we'll just watch this little video and we'll see just how helpful spending time with an animal can be.
Everybody, it's Paul. You know, a lot of people ask me, after a long day of voiceover or writing or doing all those creative things that I do, how do I relax? Well, like many other Americans, I come home and I pet my dog. You see, petting your dog is one of the most relaxing things you can possibly do. It releases a hormone called oxytocin, which reduces stress. Also, it lowers your heart rate and it lowers your blood pressure. Plus, people who pet their dogs are 5 times more likely to live longer than people who just have cats. Plus, the dogs like it so much, and it's a nice bonding experience. That's right. Good daddy's little boy. Daddy's little boy. Daddy's little boy. That's right. Okay, we're done. You see,
How many
petting
of you
your
have
dog
seen this video
is one of the
before?
most relaxing
I get a chuckle out of it every time I watch that. I didn't realize that he's a voice actor and does some of that, and he's made a couple other videos with his dog. One of them was kind of cute where he took it to a care facility, and obviously the people are in on it, but he like passes his dog to this woman to hold, and it's like snarling, and she's like, yeah, I don't think so, kind of passes the pup off. But that's a fun one. Just take some time to check into a funny video or something to just kind of break things up a little bit. Give that to you. When we're talking about issues that we're dealing with, whether it's at work or it's home, sometimes we just can't change what is happening. There's no way around it. Like my coworkers who are like, you're getting this new computer system. There's no change in it. It's just going to happen. So an important thing to do is to recognize, you know what, you're right. I can't change it, so I'm going to have to do some acceptance here and just know that it's going to happen. But if you can stay positive about it, it's going to help you deflect that stress. So some of the things that'll be, I'm sorry about this. So there are things that happen that just upset us, but it's how we manage our thoughts about it is what is going to help us accept it and kind of move forward with things a little bit better. You'll find that people who are resilient are people who are optimistic. Their glass is half full rather than half empty. And so when we're coming up with things that we just have to deal with, it's important to set some goals, and they can even be small goals. For myself, I have just had to accept the fact that I'm just going to have to lose weight. And so I have a goal, but I've set small goals that I can work on every day versus just looking at the huge goal at the end. And so that if you make small goals, it can help you take those steps to reach it and move forward, and you'll move along in your game. It's also important to kind of keep things in perspective. One thing I like to think about is like the 100-year rule. And so when things have been just really upsetting, I stop and say, okay, so in 100 years from now, is this really going to matter? Can I let this go? If you can reframe your thoughts and you can do positive self-talk about things, it's very hard to be negative about that. If you're saying, I can't do this, this is too hard, this is just going to be a problem, this isn't going to work, you're building up resistance and barriers to that. And so if you can not do that and reframe how you're thinking about things, those barriers can go away. And sometimes you just have to embrace the change. It's going to happen. Kind of like we've got to embrace the fact that fall is here and the rain is coming. We may not like it. We acknowledge that we don't like it, but it's here, so we're going to deal with it. Okay? Another thing I discovered was ikigai. And this was an interesting concept to me. Iki means to live, and gai is reason. And what we've discovered is that in America, we divide our lives into our work time and retirement. So those are like the two big seasons of our lives, working, and then we're working towards retirement. In Okinawa, they don't have a word for retirement. This is your life. We're not thinking about retiring or checking out, okay? Okinawa also has the highest number of individuals there that have very long lifespans. I think they may be the place where they have the highest population of people who live to be over 100. And part of it is because this is part of their culture and part of what they've built into their life, ikigai. And what it is just finding purpose with your life and making it work for you. So some things to think about is, what is it that motivates you to get up in the morning? What are you looking forward to that day? What is it that makes you happy? And think about that. What are you good at? Or what or who do you value? And the people I have here are my ikigai. This is my family. I'm fortunate I've got all of my children living in Salem. We get together. We've produced 6 grandchildren, which is awesome. And if anybody who has grandchildren knows, the grandchildren are the reward for going through the pain of having children. That's the end goal. So just something to think about is, what is it that gets you going in the morning? What makes you happy? And make that your reason and your purpose for living. Okay? It's also, as far as resilience, practice helps. Like I said before, it's like a muscle. If we don't practice it and use it, it's going to atrophy. It's not going to work for us. So it's something that we always need to work on building. So some of the things like we talked about, getting enough sleep, taking part in healthy activities, focusing on yourself. As parents and adults, we seem to come last. We're always taking care of everybody else, and it's important for us to take care of ourselves. So being able to do that, recognizing what your reactions are to stress. And when you can feel that reaction starting to come on, start taking a step back and think about some of the little tips and techniques that there are there. Maybe you just need to remove yourself, take a walk, practice some deep breathing so you can go forward with that. It also really helps to find a role model. If there's somebody else that you know who seems to be really resilient, maybe very optimistic, easygoing, have a chat with them and see what you can do to use them as a role model. And so finally, the little gal that was so stressed out with all her stresses in her life, she pulled it all together. And she's a Beaver believer. So I just wanted to thank you very much for listening to me chat. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful Halloween, okay? Be safe out there if you're trick-or-treating.